Okay, we are recording. This is Sahavas for everyone on Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. We are doing the last month of a year-long series called 12 Ways of Realizing Me, where every month is a way because there's 12 ways and there's 12 months. So this month is the 12th, which is, according to the message, if you have that love for me that St. Francis had for Jesus, then not only will you realize me, but you will please me. So if you have that love for me that St. Francis had for Jesus, then not only will you realize me, but you will please me. So a couple things about that, and then I'll turn it over to everybody else. One is when I first heard that, I did a lot of research into, well, what was St. Francis's love? Because now I'm very interested. It's also the only way where not only do you realize Baba, but you please him in the 12 ways of realizing me. That's the only one he says, you will please me. So I looked into that, and I'll share my screen if you don't mind. And can you see my screen if I do this? Do you see anything?
Not yet. Something's coming up.
See black.
Oh, that's it. It's not working.
Do you have multiple screens?
I'm sharing a tab.
Now we see it.
You do?
Yes. Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. I watched that
Yeah,
again.
great. I was just talking about that movie today.
Right. So in 1972, 3 years after Baba passed away, Franco Zeffirelli made a movie about the life of St. Francis. It's not a complete life of St. Francis because it ends shortly after the Pope gives him his blessing to create an order, and the order ends up thriving. But it's the beginning of Francis's life up until after his meeting with the Pope. And it's very, very close to the story of the life of St. Francis, of course, him, where he talked about that. But I highly, highly recommend this movie. So, Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, Franco Zeffirelli's film. The other thing I want to say about that handy, but the gist of it was Baba said that St. Peter. And he said, and why? He said, because Peter had Jesus with him in his life. It was easy for Peter to love Jesus. They were together. But St. Francis loved Jesus that much, and hundreds of years after the life of Jesus. So he loved him even more. Now I want to share with those who want to speak about Francis or love or any aspect of this. Let's open it up to the whole floor. Any comments, thoughts, feelings, shares?
You
I
are the
also
most
love the
on-time
movie.
person I've ever met. I commend you. So we got in 2 minutes late, and are we doing the 12 bullet points, or what's the topic here? So I have context.
Diane and Terry, I put it in the meeting chat.
Thank you.
I was really touched by that movie.
You want to share more about that, Ben?
It's been a long time since I watched it. It was one of my wife's favorite movies, and she turned me on to it. And I just remember really feeling that authenticity from the actors, from especially the St. Francis actor, just the way he looked at people. There is literally a presence that came through that felt very, very authentic to me.
Yeah. And so, Diane and Terry, the movie we were talking about is called Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. It's Franco Zeffirelli's 1972 film about the life of St. Francis. And Ben, I got something to tell you. You still there?
Yep.
That was the only movie that actor ever made. The one who played St. Francis, he stopped
Wow.
acting after that.
Wow.
Yeah, I just watched it, I think, a few weeks ago, and I believe it's available on YouTube for free or one of the sites.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
It was worth watching again. Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened to the actor?
Nothing happened to him. That
He just
after he did that
stopped acting.
film, he decided to stop acting in movies. He only
Okay.
made one film.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. I've watched it maybe 8 or 10 times, I think, including when it first came to the screen in 72, I guess it was.
Mhm.
And the way it affects me is it touches me so deeply when each one of Francis's buddies get it, and I just weep every time I watch the movie. Every time one of those
Right.
people come around and wake up to what he was talking about to them and living in accord with.
Yeah.
It just is a thrill. And of
Yep.
course, that last scene with the Pope. Oh my God. I don't think there's ever been anything more poignant than that
It's incredible.
in a movie.
Yeah. Now, that movie ends before he receives stigmata, but Baba explained that St. Francis was the only perfect master in the West. So when Don Stevens was with Meher Baba in Myrtle Beach in 1956, Don Stevens asked Baba, I don't understand. He said, you say St. Francis was the only perfect master in the West. But elsewhere, you say that to become a perfect master, you need the touch of a perfect master. So how could he have been the only perfect master in the West? Who would have been there to give him that touch to make him a perfect master? And Baba said, well, that's a good question, Don. And he said, have you heard of Khwaja Khizr? And now that's a Sufi phrase and the name of a special master who Baba said, in the rare cases when somebody has a need for the touch of a master and there is no master, Khwaja Khizr will take the role of that master for that person and help them. So it's kind of a sort of a timeless, eternal master who seems to be available as needed. And Baba said that when St. Francis received stigmata on Laverna, the mountain Laverna, which is in the book, if you read the book, The Little Flowers of St. Francis, it talks about the stigmata. And what happened was Francis had gone up on this mountain. It's a very long story, but I'll make it short. St. Francis had gone up on this mountain to pray. And when he got there, he told the brothers who were with him, let me be, don't follow me, don't disturb me. I'm going to go off and pray in solitude. And he went way off to the edge of this mountain cliff. We know because of a long story that I'm not going to tell you right now. But he said he prayed. He told the brothers later, he prayed to Jesus, please allow me to share in your suffering. That was his prayer. And then an angel appeared and gave him the wounds of Christ in his hands and in his side and in his feet. So the sharing of the suffering was made manifest in the stigmata. And Baba said when he had that book, The Little Flowers of St. Francis, read out to him, Baba said he received God realization when he received stigmata from Khwaja Khizr. Now, Khizr, according to the book, Little Flowers of St. Francis, appeared as an angel to St. Francis. And I just think that, personally, I believe that that's grace, that the master appears in the way that makes sense to the disciple. It's non-confusing. So he appeared as an angel to Francis because that was the context in which Francis was living. He was a Catholic Christian. All right. So is that interesting, all that?
Yeah, I have that book because of you, and Vanessa, and you telling me. I think you said it was Vanessa's favorite book, I believe, or something
I
like
don't know
that.
about favorite, but she is on this video chat, so she can answer for herself.
Yeah, before she answers, I had a couple of thoughts. One, I'm going to try to repeat How do you say it?
Khwaja, Kwajah, Khwaja Khizr, Khizr. Sometimes it's spelled Khidr.
It kind of sounds like a Babaji type character.
Okay.
Maybe. I
So
don't know.
not everybody on this meeting or who is going to watch this later knows who Babaji is. Would you want to share more about that?
Oh, I don't know too much about him either. It's a Yogananda lineage thing about this eternal master that I think he lives in the Himalayas or something and still appears to people like to this day or something like that. And but I was reminded of him when you mentioned that this guy is kind of available as a fill-in, I guess, for a perfect master if somebody's love is strong enough or whatever.
Right.
Oh, and then also, isn't there a Baba story of someone? Do you know about this that asked Baba to share in his suffering, and then Baba actually gave it to him, and he kind of said he couldn't handle it and gave it back or something like that? No,
I do not know that story. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. I just don't know that story.
I may have heard it from Philip, so I'll ask him about that, and if I find something out, I'll let you know or bring it back next. Bring it with me next time.
Okay. Okay. I would like to call on Vanessa or offer her an opportunity because she did make a pilgrimage with me to the spot where St. Francis received stigmata in Laverna, Italy.
Yeah, it was very magical. I highly recommend that trip for anyone who's interested in going to Italy to St. Francis's Cave, but to also go up north. It's about an hour and a half drive north of Assisi to go to Laverna. But
Tiny
you
little
know,
town. It's about 100 people soaking wet. It's tiny.
yes, it's very tiny. I was just gonna say that, when I saw the movie Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, I think I was a teenager. And I was very touched by I think this is before I went to Mehrabad, but it was the first time I kind of felt like the example was before me of someone who was intoxicated with God and who was living his life in such a sincere way according to that connection, and that to see somebody living it and to how that life unfolded, that was that was very, very mesmerizing to me. And I sometimes I wonder, like, well, was it just me? But then Francis watched that with us. I don't know if you remember that, and he
Her,
loved it too.
her son is named Francis.
Sorry, yes, Francis. And I think he watched it when he was like 13, and that sort of sparked his journey of reading The Little Flowers of St. Francis, which is a wonderful little book of all of the St. Francis's brothers, their accounts of living with St. Francis, different things that, like little lessons that they or experiences they have with him. So
Spiritual
then,
brother. The
yeah,
people in his order.
correct.
Vanessa, did you name Francis after St. Francis?
I did because I had wanted to get a perfect master of each religion. So I have Narayan, right, who Maharaj, and then I have Jalaluddin Rumi, and then I have Francis. So it was the Hindu, the Muslim, and the Christian. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the one of the things that I think I've been really coming to realize is that divine love is really the transformative and the love, I guess, that changes everything. I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but of course, I've shared with you before that I had the experience of the angel there in Laverna, and how that divine love that was gifted to me from the angel changed my life. And then today I was cleaning and organizing a bunch of files, and I came across this quote here that I want to share with you because it's about divine love, and I think
Yeah,
it's appropriate here to talk
please.
about. So this quote is a Meher Baba quote, and it talks about divine love. And it says, only the outpouring of divine love can bring about spiritual awakening. In this critical time of universal suffering, men are becoming ready to turn towards their higher self and to fulfill the will of God. Divine love will perform the supreme miracle of bringing God into the hearts of men and of getting them established in the lasting and true happiness. It will satisfy the greatest need and longing of mankind. Divine love will make men selfless and helpful in their mutual relations, and it will bring about the final solution of all problems. The new brotherhood on earth shall be a fulfilled fact, and nations will be united in the fraternity of love and truth. Meher Baba. And I think Saint Francis did that. He embodied that divine love, and the men were inspired to create this new brotherhood, this everything that it's saying here in this quote.
That was a beautiful quote. Thank you, love.
Mm-hmm.
Did that quote make it into the love book?
It did not. So I tell Vanessa all the time, if we put everything Baba shared about love into the love book, it would have been like 2,000 pages long. As it was, it's 500 pages. Ron, have you got something?
Well, for some reason it popped into my mind that I was asked to be in a short film. Mark Choi likes to make films about Baba and various spiritual themes, and he lives nearby, and he asked me to play the part of Shams Tabriz, Shams of Tabriz, who it is possible who he met Saint Francis when Saint Francis went to the East, and so he filmed it, to depict their coming together, and it's on YouTube if you want to look it up. It's kind of fun. I think he did a good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Diane and Terry, you have something?
We've been to Assisi, but raised a Jew, I didn't know of Saint Francis at all until Baba. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I always want honesty. So did you get any sense at all of what Francis's love was like?
His love.
That in St. Clair, you could
Right.
feel it in the town,
Yep.
and everything that you read is about the love. And
Mhm.
so that was, we only got to spend about 3 days there.
In the
Mhm.
cave.
And then we went to the cave with
Valeria.
Valeria. So it was a nice meshing of Baba and St. Francis.
Yeah. Well, I happen to know that Vanessa knows. I'm giving her a little cue that I'm going to say something about Francis and Vanessa. That Vanessa knows something about St. Francis because she loves to tell a story about what perfect joy is according to St. Francis. I see her chewing, so I'm gonna have to buy her a little bit more time. But she has a incredible fondness for this story where St. Francis loves to teach his spiritual brothers about God and spirituality. Do you remember this story about perfect joy, love?
Yes, I was reading the Little Flowers of St. Francis, and when I came across the chapter, it says, what is perfect joy? And I thought, yeah, what is perfect joy? And it was basically Brother Leo and St. Francis walking through the forest for an entire day. And Francis starts off the day with, Brother Leo, do you know what perfect joy is? And Brother Leo's like, no, tell me what perfect. And then St. Francis walks along and he says, well, perfect joy is not knowing all the placement of the stars and how that will affect humanity and each soul. He goes, nope, that's not perfect joy. Brother Leo's like, okay, well, what is? He's like, well, it's not knowing all the plants and their healing properties and how you would be able to help each, person in their physical ailments. And he's like, okay, well, what is it? And then they go on hour after hour after hour, and he's just saying, well, it's not, knowing the language of the animals and being able to speak with them, and and he's like, okay. He's getting really frustrated. He doesn't think he'll ever hear what perfect joy is, and you finally get up to a tavern, and the tavern master comes out when they knock, and he opens the door, and he sees these two men that are dressed basically in rags and dirty. And he's like, oh, get out of here. What are you doing coming to this? And so they get berated. And then St. Francis says, oh, we'll have to try the next tavern. And then he goes to the next tavern. They knock on the door. And now at this point, it's getting stormy. It's really cold. The wind is really blowing hard. And so they knock desperately, needing a place of, warmth. And the guy comes out, sees that they're dressed in rags and they're dirty, and you're go away, you're like these homeless probably freaks back then. And so he took his baton, he had a wood baton, he starts beating them away from the door. So Francis says, come on, Leo, we'll go over here. And they go by this mass of boulders, and they sit behind the boulders trying to get some shelter from the wind. And as they lay there bruised and bloody and cold and shivering, St. Francis looks over to Brother Leo and he goes, herein lies perfect joy. And I was struck by that, because I thought, well, that's the opposite of what I thought perfect joy would be. I didn't think it was going to be like some suffering, but then I thought, well, what does that mean, And I guess for St. Francis, his compass is this such that whatever would, annihilate the ego is where then your higher self and that divine love can thrive and grow. And so that those circumstances were perfect for perfect joy to express itself.
That was a great story, love. Certainly not what people in the West are looking for. And it reminds me that Baba once said, there is no market for God, because people would ask him, like, why aren't people lining up to be with you and see you and all that? It's not popular. It's not comfortable.
I'm also thinking of the term saint. I can't remember if it was Baba who said it. May have been Kitty Davy who also maybe was quoting Baba, but that the saints seek out as many ways as they possibly can to suffer for the beloved. This is how they attain their joy in life, by being able to suffer for God.
Yeah.
So
I actually do have something about that in the love book. Should I find that for you?
why not? Yeah, that'd be good.
All right. Somebody tell a story while
I got the image when you were saying about people lining up to ask God. People line up now to ask St. Nicholas for what they want for Christmas. I'm being funny here. Nobody's laughing. Oh, there Johnson is laughing.
It's been, maybe you need to wish for coal, piece of coal.
I used to have a teacher that would say, you can't bring coals to Newcastle. Can't bring what they already have and don't need.
When you were talking about the suffering, I can't quote it for sure, but I'm quite sure Upasani had said that a day without suffering, he needed to have every day some suffering every day, or words to that effect.
Wow.
What was
Was
that?
that, was that in his discourses, you think?
It could have been. I think. I mean, I don't remember where it was, but it made a big impression on me. It was early in my coming to, and I was reading spots of the. But boy, when you read his biography, he certainly lived that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Posney's kind of one of the main kind of quotes that, be as it may. That was like kind of his motto, be as it may.
I found the bit.
The Posney bit?
No, the bit I was looking for.
Oh,
You want to hear it?
yeah.
This is in Vanessa's chapter on fearless love. It's chapter 45 in our love book. There's a quote that we found. According to Erich, Baba spoke about St. Francis to him. Baba said, "This is St. Francis's prayer." Why were the saints saints? Because they were cheerful when it was difficult to be cheerful, patient when it was difficult to be patient, because they pushed on when they wanted to stand still, kept silent when they wanted to talk, and were agreeable when they wanted to be disagreeable. That's in the book, and the sources there too, if you want to get more information about that. But I thought that was interesting. What somebody was saying reminded me of that quote.
Well, I do think that the capacity for suffering and the capacity for love go hand in hand. So I do think it's applicable to be talking about suffering. I mean, I can certainly say that in my lifetime, my relationship to suffering has shifted, just in perspective. I mean, before I used to kind of try to avoid it or cringe or complain, but then, as I started, I think at one point I was experiencing a ton of suffering, and I thought, I wonder if this gets any better. And I started looking up the saints, and I was like reading about them, and I was like, my God, it gets worse. So I thought, okay, so this is something that is going to be, part of the expansion of consciousness, I guess. It's just is like a tool that God uses. And of course, by the time you're a saint, you've got probably some experience of physical bliss of some sort. So you're at that point, you're just like, why not? Like, give me some more suffering. I want to, then you're just having this experience of the heart just expanding, be incredible.
Yeah, I was going to say, does it actually get worse? Because it sounded to me that from your story you told that he found joy, Yeah. And I also was thinking in your story too, they were actually rejected, which on their side was not self-imposed suffering, but the need for acceptance, right? And so how acceptance also plays into suffering. And I think for me, what's helped me to accept suffering more is understanding and reading Baba's discourses on karma, or understanding them to the best of my ability, and knowing that, oh, well, it's like ripping a band-aid off, or just like telling the truth. Like, it's the shortest path to being free from that. And so I face it willingly. And then when I have Baba with me, I think it turns to joy.
Yeah. Well, also as our values shift, right? So our value for joy might be, oh, we're going to have popcorn and watch a movie. And then as you grow a little further along, that joy is not, a joy anymore. And then, it shifts. It's like a maturing of values. And then eventually the highest value of like that level of suffering, whatever it might be, mental, physical, is the joy, no longer is the pleasure, right? The limited desires.
I would also add, I think awareness of the eternal, how suffering can kind of push us into that somehow, and we don't always see it. I think this is kind of difficult for me because I feel like I've had glimpses, but like just today, honestly, I don't know if it's the full moon coming on or what, but just felt kind of this deflation of enthusiasm. I mean, it was just like, I don't know, I just didn't feel like I wanted to do anything, you know? I think if I don't surrender, then my mind will start to label it. Am I depressed? Am I okay? Start to put labels on it. And then that's kind of me taking it into my own hands. And if I do that enough, then I feel like, well, I better go see a doctor. This is getting bad or whatever. But if I have Baba or God, and I sit with it and just be in it and don't try to do anything and don't try to label it, just sort of watch it, then it alleviates. And then, you know, before I knew it, suddenly within, I don't know, an hour or so, I was at the grocery store, then I was home and I was calling my wife and I was just jovial again, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you say in the beginning that did you use the word eternal? What did
Yeah.
And you were feeling like you were connecting?
Oh, so I feel like I'm picturing St. Francis, and who was the other guy in the story?
Brother Leo.
Brother Leo, right? Brother Leo and St. Francis. And here they are behind a boulder and it's bad weather, right? That's sort of the end. And that's when he had the joy moment.
Yeah.
Right. Well, knowing that if you have an awareness of the eternal, then whatever happens in the temporal is a lot more tolerable. And you're actually sort of holding onto Baba's Daman in a sense, I guess you might say. So, so by having glimpses of that eternal or eternity through, I guess, my spiritual path, I feel like I've had glimpses of that from time to time with Baba, where I'm just like, man, everything is just fine. I really get for a moment that time is an illusion, and you know, those moments are kind of rare, but I've had them. I know I have, and by knowing that and trusting that, then I can kind of be more like St. Francis and Brother Leo, just sort of smiling as the hail is coming down and pelting me in the head. I don't know, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So all this reminded me of the Song of the New Life that Dr. Ghani and Baba wrote when they were on the New Life. And I thought I'd quote two parts of it that I think speak exactly to what we're talking about. Can I read that out? The two stanzas I love from this song are, I love all of it, but the two that are speaking to me right now to this is, we have taken to this life in which we rely only on God. In this, our will to do or die is strengthened by the oath taken. We are merrily singing the song of hopelessness. We are inviting all calamities and difficulties. Then I skip down here. There is no small or great now for us all. The questions of disciple, master, or godhood no longer arise. Brotherliness or fellow feeling is the link that exists, and this contributes to our present enjoyment of suffering. And this thing of brotherliness is like the brothers of St. Francis, that he created an order of, they're all in it together, they're all helping each other, and it's not so much master and disciple, although Francis did play that role and Mayor Baba did play that role. But on the New Life and in Francis's life, he really accentuated brotherliness. So I wanted to share that.
Yeah, I think it was contagious too. I mean, that's why I think in the book, when I read like 5,000 men came and were, you know, trying to become part of the order, and it was just incredible.
He had an extreme success during his own lifetime in his own order. extreme
And
success.
considering he only lived to like in his 40s, his early 40s, I mean, that's incredible. Well, that means because his first, part of his life, he's up to his 20s, he's growing up, he's having a normal experience. So that means 20 years just of traveling and spreading this incredible, example of love.
It is incredible. And by the way, according to the brothers who wrote The Little Flowers of St. Francis, his wounds from the stigmata never healed. They tended his wounds till his dying day.
Given what Bob has said about the stigmata, other people have experienced it. When I was thinking of it, Father Pia, or I'm
Yeah.
wondering.
Francis, Francis was the first saint to ever experience stigmata, but not the last.
Yeah, and I don't know that experiencing it has the same significance that it did with Saint Francis, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, all I know is that at the time, Baba said he was the only perfect master in the West. He didn't say that there'll never be another perfect master in the West. So I have no idea. Yeah.
I wanted to comment on that idea of why people are not lining up to read the discourses and find out about Mayor Baba. And I think one of the things that Baba brings out is so different from what people are lining up and finding to be popular is the satisfying of desires. The New Age movement is pretty much, how are you going to get the power that you have within you to satisfy all your desires? And it's so different. Baba in the 30s said, "It is your right to be happy." Uh, uh, and yet you create your own unhappiness by wanting things. Wanting is the source of restlessness, your endless restlessness. So people don't want to hear that. People are so identified with their cravings and desires, and even the ego thrives on when you don't get them, you feel a victim of life and all. It's so completely the opposite. But that's what's happening right now. Is Maya is going to the extremes where uh, we're so far away, yet there's so many people that are awakening to what the truth is. So what can we do? I mean, this is how Bob is playing it out.
When I first came to Bob, I heard a story. Somebody might have heard this too, where somebody asked Bob, "What are you going to do when you break your silence and manifest and all that?" And Baba made this gesture like this, like he was holding the earth and like that. And they said, "Oh, you're going to turn the world upside down?" And he said, "No, right side up."
Yeah. The values of the society and the cultures, most cultures, are upside down. They have gotten to that point.
I've always loved that. What Laurent just shared, and then what you shared, Ron, reminded me also. And I know that Baba was talking about the war, but I like to think of it for kind of all things. But when they asked him something like, how is all this going to end, right? And he said people are just going to get sick of it all. And I think if you look at social media and the trends and the acceleration of what AI is doing and everything seems really hyper accelerated right now, the people are just grasping for stuff to hold on to, and nothing, and it just slips through their fingers so fast now, like sand, and that I think we are approaching that sick of it allness, that he's speaking of.
I agree.
Can I share that quote from what Ben just said?
Please.
I think it's this one. You correct me if I'm wrong. The present chaos and destruction will engulf the whole world, but this will be followed by a very long period in which there shall be no war. The passing sufferings and miseries of our times will be worth enduring for the sake of the long period of happiness which is to follow. What will the present chaos lead to? How will it all end? It can only end in one way. Mankind will be sick of it all. Men will be sick of wanting and sick of fighting out of hatred. Greed and hatred will reach such intensity that everyone will become weary of them. The way out of the deadlock will be found through selflessness. The only alternative which can bring a solution will be to stop hating and to love, to stop wanting and to give, to stop dominating and to serve. Great suffering awakens great understanding. Supreme suffering fulfills its purpose and yields its true significance when it awakens exhausted humanity and stirs within it a genuine longing for real understanding. Unprecedented suffering leads to unprecedented spiritual growth. It contributes to the construction of life on the unshakable foundation of the truth. It is now high time that universal suffering should hasten humanity to the turning point in its spiritual history. It is now high time that the very agonies of our times should become a medium for bringing a real understanding of human relationship. It is now high time for humanity to face squarely the true causes of the catastrophe which has overtaken it. It is now high time to seek a new experience of reality. To know that life is real and eternal is to inherit unfading bliss. It is time that men had this realization by being unified with their own selves.
Oh, I'm glad you shared that.
Awesome quote, isn't it?
It goes right along with that other quote and then what St. Francis was doing. So it's perfect.
Jay Baba.
It's a good
Man.
one.
Oof. Gotta
Yes,
love Mary
suffering.
Baba.
Hand in hand.
The guy is just so spot on. You guys want to hear kind of a quick, funny story that really doesn't have a whole lot to do with what we're talking about? But I want to share it because
Will you
it's
tell us
about
what you're cooking?
what?
Will you also tell us what you're cooking?
I'm making tacos, burritos for my children right now, actually. And yeah, so cooking up some Mexican. Yeah, it was funny. So we have it's all these beautiful women, these spiritual women are around me, and I'm just fortunate. Many of them here. I mean, I'm just so fortunate. I'm just surrounded. Well, my wife hasn't been able to live in our house for about 10 months because of some mold we're dealing with, and it's looking like it's finally going to shift first of the next year. That's another story. Anyway, she hasn't been here, and we're very much in love. Been together for 20 years, sorry, 2 decades, and 18 years. But anyway, speeding it up. She was at our friend's house, who's this very beautiful spiritual woman, and this Charlotte left town. She's actually at the Heartland Center, the Mary Baba Center in Prague right now. And our other friend asked me to come over and to help her set up some sound in her music room. I have a degree in audio production. So I asked my wife, I was like, are you okay with me going over there with just me and her? And my wife, who doesn't have weird abandonment issues like I do, she's like, of course, why would I worry about that, and like, don't be, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And I realized it was back, I remembered being a kid and like feeling this sort of possessiveness with my partners and don't leave me, and and honestly, even now, like if it was her and some guy, I would probably be challenged internally a little bit. I could handle it. We do this stuff all the time. I'm much more mature now than I was. And I pick up the love book literally like right after we had that conversation of that Laurent and Vanessa just put out. And I've been reading it every night. And the first thing I read is this paragraph from Laurent talking about when he was in elementary school and there was this girl and he didn't want her to go play with the other boys and she wasn't having it. And she said, no, I'm going to go play with the other boys. And he just had to accept that she was going to go and like hang out with these other guys. I was just like, what are the freaking chances, man? That's so Baba, like that happened, right? Anyway, I was amazed. Maybe that wasn't that great of a story. I don't know.
It means we have a connection, Ben, you and I.
Yeah. Well, thanks for writing that because I was like, okay, I'm not completely crazy. And I liked it too because you were talking about your younger self, and that's totally where it comes from. And that's what Baba does. Baba's this lighthouse. He's this light that I shine into the darkness of my past that I don't always see. It's still there. It's still kind of behind that boulder, so to speak. And sometimes I forget because I've come so far in my journey. I've been sober for 6 years. I've done all these things. You know, I've found Baba. I'm a completely different person in my life than I used to be. But still, sometimes those little dark insecurities will just crop up out of nowhere, and I'll ask a question like that, you know, and be like, oh, wait, yeah, of course, we're adults here. You know, everything's fine.
Well, can I remind you of a quote that I think is relevant to what you're talking about, Ben?
Please.
It sounds like you're trying to bring everything into your consciousness and not keep it pushed down or, shadowy, right? So Carl Jung was one of the pioneers of all that kind of work, and he said, unless you make that which is in your unconscious conscious, your unconscious will rule your life, and you will call it fate.
I love it.
And I think Baba was all about
Can you
that.
repeat that, please? Can you?
Yeah, sure. I think Baba was all about that because he wanted us to get everything out of the unconscious and make it conscious. And he said about 6/7 of your mind is in the unconscious, and you have to work on all that. 1/7 is in your consciousness. Carl Jung said, unless you make that which is unconscious conscious, your unconscious will rule your life, and you will call it fate.
That is awesome.
So that's the kind of work you did with people. What?
I was going to say, it reminds me of when Erich had been with Baba for a short while, living with Baba, and he asked Baba, he said, Baba, I think I'm not as good a person as I was before I got here. I'm doing all these things and thinking all these things and wanting all these different things that don't seem appropriate. And what's going on? And Baba said, well, this is what's happening is it's coming up from the depth from your heart, out of your heart, is coming to the surface. It's like when you boil the sugar, the dross and the scum comes up to the top, so that way it can be scooped off and purified. Because it is about purification. I mean,
that's right.
The best love is the pure love, and we all have it, but we just need to get rid of the stuff that's polluting it.
Isn't that so beautiful?
That's incredible. Baba said there's actually nothing for you to gain. It's at this point, because of being human and having human consciousness, all you have to do is remove that which is blocking your experience of the divinity. There's nothing left to gain.
Yep.
Say that again one more time. There's nothing left to gain what?
He said that God realization isn't about acquiring anything because you've already got the full consciousness. The problem is the barriers to your own awareness of your own divinity. So there's nothing for you to gain. The only thing left is to take away all the veils between you and your own experience of your own divinity.
As Baba says, you have to become what you already are.
Yeah. Well, but the challenge is that he said too many other things, which is that he said there are three things on the spiritual path about which there can be no compromise: love, obedience, and surrender. So obviously we can avoid those three things, but for how long?
Well, I think that's some value too in repeating Baba's name. It's really helped me to purify my thoughts. Not that I've become pure. I'm not saying that I've completed the process. I'm saying that every time a judgment, like little things like him putting emphasis on gossip and things like that, has really helped me tremendously, because it raises my personal awareness, to report myself to Baba. Anytime I have a negative thought or just any kind of unwanted thoughts, and even that is something. It's like, am I being judgmental of, it's really, it can be tricky, but basically it's not so hard to, if you get really honest with yourself, which for me I did with this whole sobriety journey. Am I being selfish or am I not? Am I being self-centered or am I not? And it's like that inviting the difficulties on the path thing. It's like, now I love talking about how self-centered I am, like openly, like I am so self-centered, because the I that says that, this ego that doesn't even truly exist, it truly is like very much about me and my story. And so I call myself out constantly. I just keep watch. Am I serving Baba? Or it's like that thing Mani said, wasn't it what Baba told Mani, that you can have it your way or you can have it my way, but you can't have or both or something?
You're close. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
Mani wrote this down, and I saw it on the refrigerator of my friends in Salem, Massachusetts, Cynthia and Richard Griffin. She wrote on the paper, Baba said to us, you either want what you want or you want what I want. You can't want both.
By the way, the 12th way of realizing Baba was Mani's favorite quote of Baba. She had it, a framed copy on her desk.
Awesome.
At the trust office.
Can I share a Francis story that I was reminded of when people were talking?
Yes, please.
I think it was Ben talking about having that vigilance over himself, trying to be vigilant, right, Ben?
Mm-hmm.
Francis had a favorite of all the brothers. I don't know if you know that, was Bernardo, who was also his first disciple. They were extraordinarily close. And one day he called out for Bernardo, and Bernardo didn't come. And he said, Bernardo, and Bernardo didn't come. So he started thinking, Francis started thinking, what's wrong with Bernardo? Why doesn't he come? Like, what kind of brother is this? And, again, Bernardo, and Bernardo didn't come. So he started having negative thoughts about Bernardo. So then Francis said to God, what's going on with him? Like, what is this, And then God said to Francis, Bernardo's not coming because he's with me. And Bernardo was in prayer. He didn't even hear Francis.
Mm.
And so when Bernardo came out of prayer, Francis said to him, you're my disciple, right? And Bernardo said, yes, of course. He said, did you hear me calling for you? And he said, no, I was praying. I didn't hear anything. He said, right. But I started calling for you and you didn't hear me. And I started having bad thoughts about you. So as my disciple, you promised to obey me, right? And Bernardo said, yes. He said, well, in holy obedience, I need you to do something for me. And Francis said, I want you to step on my neck. So Francis laid
Stamp
down.
on it. He wanted it stamped on.
Yeah. So Francis laid down, and because of his being his disciple and obeying him, he stepped on his neck, because Francis wanted to remedy his own impure thinking about Bernardo. That's in the Little Flowers of St. Francis.
Wow.
Just because he had bad thoughts about Bernardo. They didn't even come out of his mouth, but he thought bad things.
But doesn't Baba say say stuff about our thinking, it's okay if we don't act on it?
Well, okay is a funny word. I'm not sure he used the word okay.
No, I
But,
know.
I think he'd be happy if you didn't act on it, but I think he's even happier with St. Francis for going the extra distance and having the vigilance to know that he was having bad thoughts about his spiritual brother and then having the penance. There's a whole
Well,
bit of penance. If you want to read about penance, it's in the discourses. And Baba said, sincere remorse and penance can undo the binding effects of karma.
And what Diane just shared pairs nicely with what Ron shared about coming to Baba and pulling out those negative thoughts. So those go together, right?
Is this like pairing wine with cheese? What's going on here with the
or
I
pair
mean,
Corona with a nice Mexican taco.
Well, I mean, I think it's all true, right? It's just about layers, isn't it? So if you're trying to get to union and self-realization and all that, you don't want to stop with not speaking it. You want to keep going further and further back to the root of it, which is obviously thinking and feeling, right? All right. Well, we're coming to the top of the hour, so I'd like to do what I call a last round where everybody has an opportunity to share, especially Joshua. We have not really heard from Joshua tonight, so I want to give him an opportunity to share thoughts and feelings before we wrap up, and then everybody will have an opportunity after Joshua.
Yeah, my connection is not so great, so forgive me if it cuts out. But yes, but interestingly, by chance, within arm's reach of all the books I happen to have the Little Flowers of Saint Francis, which I was not even thinking of. So that's an interesting
So that's your homework, Joshua.
serendipitous moment.
That's your homework. Read the Little Flowers of St. Francis. And if you read it because I told you to read it, I get good karma. So please read it.
Yes, but of course, because you've declared that you get good karma, you now cancel out any good karma that you get. You should have never even received it.
No,
But
I'm pairing the good karma with the bad karma.
it reminds me, like, 'cause I also happened to read a book about Saint Francis' life recently, and like, yeah, he was like, so into purposefully like embracing poverty, literally, washing lepers, which disgusted him, and so, but then he faced that fear and purposefully washed the lepers, and was doing all this hard, like, difficult stuff, in the service of others or the divine. And yeah, it really does remind me a lot of the New Life. That's for sure. I think you're right in that. And yeah, it's I think
Bob
it's a
also
really
raised
cool
lepers.
example. Yeah, it's just great that that's cool to see that there are people out there that can actually live that. That's what inspires me. That there are some people out there that are willing to sort of embrace such difficulty and duress, for the benefit of others. It's pretty it's pretty uplifting. And yeah, with Baba, I always find the definition of what love is, quite nebulous for me as a sort of as a small little Atma, unrealized. But if I could be completely wrong in this, but I think maybe Baba's gesture for love might have been the same one as his gesture for forgiveness. And, maybe that's wrong, but it makes me feel like, when I'm asking to sort of like, love the divine, the universe, God. In many ways, it's there's a call for me to forgive, small slights that might happen to me, and yeah, to sort of to heal my heart and open my heart even in a difficult world. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. And I've also
Beautiful
been doing a little
2 cents.
drawing of flowers, which I don't know if you can see this, but I've been doing some abstract work drawing of flowers whilst we've been talking.
Those are the
Yeah.
big flowers. They're the big flowers of St. Francis.
Yes. In my personal journal and letters to Baba, the flower is my symbol of gratitude. And yeah, it's which is again what I would define as one of the ways of loving, basically seeing the great things in it. Yeah. So yeah, it's
Awesome.
yeah, it's cool. It's very cool, and I highly recommend reading about Saint Francis's life. It's very hardcore but inspiring. You know, to see he's like an Olympian of the heart in many ways, I think.
Thank you. Thank you, Joshua. Who wants to go next? Final thoughts and feelings before we wrap.
I have another quote if anybody wants to hear it.
Yes.
Okay, this is a Bible quote. Love has to spring spontaneously from within, and it is no way amenable to any form of inner or outer force. Love and coercion can never go together. But though love cannot be forced on anyone, it can be awakened in him through love itself. Love is essentially self-communicative. Those who do not have it catch it from those who have it. True love is unconquerable and irresistible, and it goes on gathering power and spreading itself until eventually it transforms everyone whom it touches. And this just reminds me of a little thing that happened in Laurent and I's life, and it was just a small, I think, act of love. But we were standing in a breakfast line for a biscuit place, and Laurent was inspired to pay for the people behind us. And so we got up and paid for our meal, and then those people paid for the next people, and those people paid for the next people. So it caught on, and so like this long line of people were all smiling and laughing and it was like it transformed the whole energy of the morning and the people, and it was very sweet. Do you remember that? Yeah. That's all
I'd completely forgotten about it until just now.
Yeah.
That makes it even better.
It brings back your good karma.
That Josh stole from you.
Meow.
All right, Ron, final thoughts and feelings before we wrap?
Well, I was looking for a quote, but I couldn't find it, so I'll save it for next time.
All
Thanks.
right. All right.
Good meeting, good brotherly companionship here. It's all nice. It's so good to see
and
people
sisterly.
loving Baba.
And sisterly.
Fellowship.
Yeah, right. Brotherly and sisterly feelings of love.
That reminds me of the life of Brian, where the guy's always saying, "And women and sisters." All right, should we do an Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai? Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher
Baba Ki Jai.
Avatar Meher
Avatar
Baba
Meher Baba Ki Jai.